Hello everyone, so this video will be about ornaments. I noticed many people are interested in these ornaments topics, and actually I also noticed my students very often don't really know how to play some ornaments, and they always ask how to play them, and it's actually a common question. And also I noticed there is a lot of debate about this, and people like to fight about it. And actually it's also a famous, actually when I tell my students how to play it, I say always their ornaments are quite free, and that's actually the base of the answer of my question today. Ornaments are actually kind of small improvisation that people used to do in music, and there were traditions, and there were people knew how to do it in Bach time, for example. After a while they got written, and there's interpretation of this, and actually it was not standardized until the beginning of the 17th century. So before I go into the topic, as you see I have a list t-shirt, and some people ask me, so it's the same list as there, it's a painting from Henry Lehmann. Some people asked me if they could buy it, and actually you can buy them now. It's in the link under the video. On my Shopify you can purchase some, or just write me if you want. Yeah, I also noticed I made a short about ornaments, and I noticed people get very aggressive. I often have Italians say that's wrong, when I was actually just posting what Bach said would be the way to play his ornaments. And that's why I thought it's an interesting topic to make a video about. So I went back to music theory. So actually I went to this book, music. It's a French book, of course. So I don't think it's translated in English. It's by Jacques Gerstered, which is actually kind of a reference. He's a composer. He's a teacher at the Paris Conservatory, and he has a prize in piano, composition, harmony, chamber music. And then he had the Grand Prix de Rome, which is a very important composition prize. So the guy can write music, he knows the theory, it's a reference, no doubt about this, right? So I think that's something you can base your research on. Because I guess most of people who make comments about ornaments on social media base their knowledge on forums or social media, which is not very good. You should always go and search for good sources, people who studied it, who are recognized by other people, right? So the other source I have actually is Bach himself, because Bach wrote in Henle-Buch, so that's a well-tempered keyboard of Bach, wohltemperierte Klavier. In the Henle edition they actually wrote examples that Bach himself was writing in a little book he wrote for his son. Bach himself wrote this in Klavierbüchlein, written for Wilhelm Friedman Bach, yeah? So it's one of his sons who actually was a musician too. And he wrote how he would suggest to play the ornaments he was writing for his children. He was writing pieces for his children so that they learn music. So that's, and again, he said it's a suggestion. And there is an important stuff too. Actually, they write that this trill, written Trillo, I mean the text you would write Trillo, because I think Bach was actually using the Italian name for these ornaments. There are also people say a cadence is not this. Well, in Bach time apparently he called this a cadence because it's an Italian term for it. The trillo actually, who can be written TR, or this little thing, or this longer thing, is actually, apparently Bach didn't really care about the distinction between them. They were kind of all the same, and depending on the context you will play a long or a short one, right? So that's the important stuff. And actually there is also in his Goldberg variation, which is full of ornaments. There's actually a page of the manuscript, you can have a look. There is also the same recap of the ornaments Bach was writing for his son, plus some other one. So if you want to check some credible stuff, it's this. But then again, it's not the Bible. Bach didn't say that's the only way you have to play it and don't play otherwise, because he was probably himself, or very surely himself, improvising these ornaments once in a while, or deciding for another one when he changed his mind two weeks later, right? And also these ornaments things depend on tradition, on countries, and on periods. So you would play ornaments different in different periods. For example, the trill, you used to start from the upper note in Baroque music, and in Romantic music from the 19th century you would start the trill from the note, unless the composer writes differently. I will come on this later. So let's start with the ornament. The first ornament I want to show is the gruppetto. Gruppetto, yeah? Gruppetto basically is turning around the note, and the sign actually is showing a bit what you have to do. So I would put the example and how it looks and how you have to play it. So the first one would be this. So if you play, also another thing many people always ask is how you play and how is the timing when you play an ornament. And actually, if you want to know how is the timing, just play the notes without the ornament and try to place the ornament in between or on top of it without changing the timing of the note. So for example, here I have 3 notes coming on the first note again, on the second note, and the ornament is on the second one, so it would be, yeah, this is a gruppetto. You start the gruppetto with the upper note of the note where it's written on, you turn around and you go to the next, right? Another example is the inverted gruppetto. So you can see it starts going up first, the normal gruppetto, and the other gruppetto, it goes down first, right? And then he has this example with 3 notes, like, where he would start now with the lower note of the written note. Then you have the gruppetto. If it's between 2 notes or on the note, you would play it a bit differently, because if it's in between a note, you first play the note, then you play the gruppetto according to this note, and then you go to the next. So, and for the timing, again, I would play it without, then what he's explaining a bit later also, it's that this kind of how you play it rhythmically is also quite free, and I will come to example there. So another example is, yeah, a dotted note, a gruppetto with a dotted note before. So he's giving this example of, and then the next one would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so, and it would be played 1, 2, 3, 4. So this kind of stuff you have to practice. Ornaments, gruppetto, it's in Mozart sonatas. I remember I spent a lot of time practicing the trills to have them really clean, to know where I stop them, to know how long I make them, to know how fast I make them, if I want to make them straight, if I want to make an accelerando in the trill or a retardando in the trill. So again, it's quite free. You can do a lot of stuff in ornaments, or if I want to change an ornament and do another one. Now let's go to musical examples for this gruppetto. The first one would be in Beethoven sonata, the 5th piano sonata, where you have this, with a gruppetto between both notes would be. And then he's telling you can play it a bit more free, would be. So there's one where you start on the second half or the quarter, so, and the one you start a bit later. And actually you can move these as much as you want. You could do it very late too, but since it's a slow movement, you tend to do it a bit more singing, right? That's another thing. Ornaments tend to be a bit more slow in slow movements and fast in fast movements, just to keep the character, but it's free. Another example in, I think it's the same sonata, yeah, exactly, where the gruppetto is between 2 notes, but with a tied note before. Or if I do it, there I did it rhythmically, and if I do it a bit more free, actually I started a bit earlier, I did this quintole, right? I could also do it later. Another example is the end of the same sonata, actually, of the same, I think it's the first movement, yeah, where it's in between 2 upper notes and you have middle voice. Middle voices keep going. Yeah, there you can see that he put this natural sign to say that the A flat, who is in the tonality of what we are playing, it should be. But if he wants this lower note to be natural, he has to write it. And if he wants the upper note to be natural or sharp or flat or anything, he has to write it above. So that's how you do it. Then I have a fascinating example there where also I'm convinced of something based on all the research I did, and I didn't find any. So in the 3rd piano sonata of Beethoven there is this place. Let me play it. Because another example he's just showing here is this rhythm where you have, with this gruppetto in between will be, it's again a slow movement, so he proposes to have this. And then he's telling you if you play this in an allegro, so in a fast one, you would probably you will not do the stops we had before, so you would do. That's how you would do it if it's fast. So keep this example in mind, because what I'm playing now from Beethoven, actually measure 46 of his third piano sonata, so opus 2 number 3. You have this. So he has this gruppetto with the C sharp lower note and then going to the next, right? So Beethoven knows how to write a gruppetto, and if you want to have it between or on the note, and if you want the sharp, he's doing it right. Some measures later, actually bar 46, no sorry, this was bar 27, no, now bar 46, we have this 45, we have this thing here. With this gruppetto on the second note there. So according to theory, if it's on the note, I would have to do the upper note first. So I'm on D, then I go to C sharp, so I should do the upper note of C sharp, which is D, and then go on. Should actually sound like this. Now there is this discussion of should I have a F natural there or F sharp. Actually, he didn't write natural under it, but since I didn't find anything saying this, but what I remember is you should do the note of the tonality you are in right now, right? Because it's always the upper and lower note of the tonality you are just in right now. And it's true, just before we had the F sharp, so it would probably be I don't know, there we can debate, I don't have a real explanation, but actually what I'm thinking, the argument of people is it's 1.5 tone in an ornament, it's ugly. And my idea, because how most people play it is this, which I think is wrong, because actually if he wanted this, he would have written what we had here, which is exactly this rhythm everyone is doing. And then why would he not write it like this, right? Why he wrote it like this? Now I have the discussion that he actually put it in between and it was not very accurate, and actually even if I put it in between, it means you would just repeat the C sharp. No, sorry. So then I do the ornament, then I do the next note, ornament. So I would have 5 notes instead of 4, but with the same principle. It will still not be what is there. Now about this 1.5 tone here, which is a bit a debate thing. The second time in the sonata, so it's since the ABA form, this stuff is coming a second time here. Everyone is playing. So since every pianist on the planet, and me included some years ago, is playing it like this, that's how you have it in your ear. And the way I played it is I thought that's how you should play it, because that's how everyone is playing it. But then when I was really looking at the thing and thinking why, because I'm just used to this version, so I have the feeling that's right because I'm used to hear it, and if you play it differently, of course it's very disturbing because it's something you never heard. But I think you have to be brave sometimes in life and just try to do the right stuff instead of doing what everyone is doing. So if you play this correctly, and there we have, so there again we have this difficult thing of, we have an ornament on A sharp, so it means we play the upper note which is B, A sharp, and the lower note which is G, and there is no G sharp in this tonality, right? We have no G sharp in the before, after, in the tonality, nothing. So my thinking was, if Beethoven is putting 1.5 tone there, why would he not put it just before, since it's the same thing, right? And why are people disturbed by 1.5 tone in an ornament? You are not disturbed by 1.5 tone when you play a scale. So why would it be disturbing? And again, I don't say I know the truth, but I had I think over 800,000 views for this short where I posted this, and a lot of people came with explanation. Actually, I had the same experience on Instagram because I posted there too, and there I think I had over 1 million views and a lot of comments, and mostly aggressive comments, typical social media. And I was open, and I was even looking for an explanation. I was hoping someone would tell me, well, actually, you know, blah blah blah. One guy came with an interesting explanation, very nice guy, he wrote me in private and he didn't put it in the comment, and he told me, yeah, there is this Beethoven specialist, he suggested actually that you're right, blah blah blah. I think it was slightly different than what I was suggesting. And then actually apparently there's an edition who is suggesting this. So an editor said that's how you should play it. And I think that's the reason also why so many generations of pianists are playing it like this, because we come from this time where there were no urtext stuff and where we just played what was written in the edition. Today we have urtext edition where they go do research and they try to find out how it's working. Now in Henley there is nothing written there, and I think there is something written in some Henley, but I don't have it with the comments. Anyway, so if anyone after 2 million views has a valid and persuasive explanation for this, I'm open to listen to it, but for the moment I didn't have any. And I'm not just being stubborn, I want to have a strong, credible explanation. So let's go on. This was the gruppetto. Now the mordent, I don't know, is in English I think mordent here, right? Is this little wave going up, down, and finishing like this, right? He says here, this Jacques Head, if you have an ornament on C, you would do, and then depending of slow or fast, you would do, or you would do, right? That's the mordent. If the mordent has a vertical bar to it, it's a inverted mordent, so it's with the lower note. Yeah? Or. Now it's the same if you have a flat on the top, you would do, and if you have a sharp on the bottom, you do. Now apparently this mordent, and again I want to say Bach used this mordent, and the trill, TR, and the long mordent that goes more waves, he uses apparently without caring which one is which. He's like mixing them, it's not so important. And what you would do actually is, if you have time in your music to do longer, you make a longer, and in some cases it's going so fast and you have a mordent and a note that you have no time to do more than 3 notes. And then you just do 3 notes, even if it's written trill on it, TR, right? Now there is an example here, because he says in the cembalo time, so in Baroque music, you would do this mordent on the beat. And he's giving an example of the Pathétique Beethoven Sonata. That's how you would do. But then he says in the Romantic period we started to do them after the beat. So the note first and then the ornament. And the other one was first the mordent and the last note on the beat. Or is it? And here. So the whole question is, do you put the first note on the beat or the last note on the beat? And he says like Beethoven, Schubert, Haydn are a bit in between, so where stuff started to move, so you have a bit more freedom with this, which I think too, and I come back to the stuff I said in the beginning, ornaments are kind of improvisation, so it's very free how you do it, right? There is no right or wrong with an ornament. And since this is a very fast part, actually, the sonata is fast. I think you don't have so much time to do it before, it's more easy to do it after. But we can discuss on this. And then there's another example of Schubert. Today we would play it before the beat. So. The trill. So the trill is, like I said, the mordent, but this wave stuff can be long, or it can be written with this wave stuff, and there it's a bit up to you how fast, how long do you do it. So a typical trill on a B with a sharp, if the sharp is next to it, it means the upper note will be sharp, so that's the trill. If there is no sharp, it will be, yeah. Then you have endings of the trills. He gives the example starting with D. You have another ending stuff with a B, so the upper note will be flat. And then he says in the, like, now I was playing the Romantic style, he said in Baroque time you would start it with, or here. This would be Baroque time, starting the trill with the upper note. Again, this is not, I think, an obligation, it's something they did, it's a tradition, depending on the countries, depending on the composers. Bach is suggesting to start it with the upper note. As someone told me, Chopin in a biography or something also liked and asked to start his trills with the upper note, but I'm not very convinced of this. Now Chopin was a big fan of Bach and Baroque music, maybe that's why, but actually the reason why I think it's not true is because Chopin, like he's explaining here, he's saying in romantic period you should start the trill on the note, and if the composer wanted you to start with the upper note, he would write this little note here. Or if he wanted to start with the lower note, he would do. And Chopin has many examples where he's writing these little notes, so means that if he doesn't write it, he wants to have it on the beat. That's what I think. Again, we can discuss about this in debate. Then there are examples here of trills where you have no time to really do the trill because it's very fast. But if it goes even faster, you would do. That's what he's suggesting. Then you have this nice example of Beethoven cello sonata, where you have a lot of trills after each other. Or you have this other example of the Waldstein sonata, where Beethoven is putting a trill with other notes on top, and so you would play the trill with 2 fingers and play other notes with your 5th finger, like this. And then he's suggesting to have a very measured trill, so to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how you would play it. You would measure the trills in a rhythmical way. And then he's at the end of his ornament chapter, actually he's again giving us the Bach thing that Bach suggested for his son. So people who say that's wrong, again, it's not about right or wrong, and I would do what Bach suggests actually before saying I think I'm right. But again, like, I'm sure you can have a lot of freedom with these ornaments, and in a musical way of thinking or a logical way of thinking, you can change them. But then he's showing that François Couperin and Jean-Philippe Rameau has their own ornaments table where they're explaining ornaments for us are done like this, right? So to close the chapter, I hope I give you a lot of information about ornaments. It's like I said in the beginning, it's quite free. I would not fight about this, not worth to fight about it. If you have a good musical feeling and a good logical thinking, I think both together can coexist and find a nice solution. And at the end, it's just the purpose of music is to be beautiful. So if you find it beautiful, well, it's a bit dangerous, of course. If you are an experienced musician and you find it beautiful and you find a logical way behind, I think that's valid reasons to do an ornament like you decide to do it, right? And listen to recordings, you will see nobody does ornaments the same way. For example, listen to the Goldberg variation and listen how different pianists like Gould or Lang Lang or I don't know who else, Andras Schiff, for example, they are all doing the ornaments differently. And that's the beauty of music, right? It's free for interpretation and for a different genius to express. So I hope I helped you with this video, and looking forward to see you on the next one. Bye bye.